Good evening, good evening, good evening. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to WeatherBrains, episode 1031, the weekly show for weather geeks, dweebs, nerds, dorks, and weenies. This is the pre-show, the magical, marvelous part of this program where we typically do three things. We share boring personal stories, humorous anecdotes, and from time to time, we say outrageous things. So if you're looking for the actual show beginnings, move the slider over about 9 minutes, and we'll start here. But this is where we kind of air things out that we need to air out here. Come on. I was looking at the little internal chat session we have here, and it looks like we're going to be missing a few folks tonight. Looks like Troy Kimmel is out. Looks like Bill Murray is out. Rick Smith is out. But by golly, we're going to have a good group anyway. So let's start bringing in our guests here and regulars. So we had the coolest air so far this season down here where we happen to be. We had actually had one spot hit freezing this morning. First freeze of the season, John Gordon. Sulphur Springs, Alabama. You ever been to Sulphur Springs, Alabama?
You know, it rings a bell. Good to see you, Eagle. I can't remember what county. What county?
DeKalb County, Alabama. This is the same county in which
Yes.
Fort Payne is located. And
Yes, that was one of my counties.
if you drive toward Chattanooga, Tennessee, right before the Georgia state line, there is a valley between Lookout Mountain to the east and Sand Mountain to the west. And in that valley, the little community of Sulphur Springs sits, which is just right off the Interstate 59. And we actually had a 32-degree low up there this morning. So
It's
how about
impressive.
them apples?
Yeah, I remember I remember Fort Payne, James, is because it's the sock capital of the South.
Of the world, allegedly. The sock capital of the world is what they say. So, and they have the band Alabama Museum. And what's so sad, a lot of people don't even know the band Alabama existed. Their glory days were back in the 80s and 90s.
You know that Randy Travis called me and he wanted to do the PSA for the first severe weather awareness in November. So it would have been 03, 04 maybe?
Oh, wow. I mean, Randy Owen, the lead singer of
Randy
Alabama?
Owen. Yeah, Randy
Yeah.
Owen. I'm old.
Man. No, that's kind of a big deal. That's outstanding. My claim to fame, they've got a picture of me in their museum. We did a telethon for Children's Hospital together. And this was this was back in the glory days of the 1980s. This before Jen was born.
Which Jen?
Both Jens.
Which Jen?
Both Jens.
That's true.
Both
We
of
have
them.
two. I'm sorry. Well, both of them. It goes for both of them. So they
think
came along in like
we are-
1997.
I know all this music. Well, first of all, I'm older than I look, but I mean, I love 80s and 90s country. It is my favorite music. I like it better than today's music. I like it better than the old stuff. 80s and 90s country. It's when I got into country, and so it's my thing.
Yep.
I think her dad told her about it. Jen, you were not around back then.
I was told that all women are 29 years old and weigh 101 pounds. That's what I was told.
Yeah, smart.
Very good, John. Yep.
It's very true. Ooh, I see what is it? An Oscar back there? What kind of award is that?
Yes, it is an Emmy, actually, not an Oscar, but
Yay!
yeah, it's an Emmy. It's newly placed, actually. It was for our Hurricane Helene coverage from last year, and so pretty proud of that. It was
Congratulations. That's outstanding.
That's great.
Outstanding.
Jen, it is so good to see you.
And
I'm
it is
just-
so good to see you. You look exactly the same since the last time I've seen you. It's been years, though.
It has been. I was trying to remember when it was. I think it was Mark's wedding. Mark Elliott. I
Oh
think that's
gosh, yeah.
that was a long time ago.
Yeah, that was a long time
So,
ago.
But yeah.
So is that your actual background right now? or
Yeah.
where are you? What time zone are you in?
I am in the Eastern time zone. I am at the beach, so I just, throwing it for the effect.
Okay.
But yeah, I'm in Southwest Florida right now, and I'm a nomad. I'm just doing my thing and traveling and doing history. So it's
That's
been great.
awesome.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
I'm
I
loving
think
it.
I saw your journey on Facebook, and I think I told you, like, I want to be you. That's a fantastic gig.
Thank you. It's been great so far. And getting ready for November, I'll be in Virginia doing a bunch of history. And I think we're going to end up in Richmond for several days. There's so much rich history there. So it's going to be great. So kind of organizing it and all that. So, but yeah, this is my quiet, happy place at the beach.
Oh gosh, yes. I would try my best to stay there. Thank you all for having me.
Do you have
I'm excited to be
Oh, we're
part of
so
this.
glad. This is awesome.
Jen might not say that after the next hour. She might hang up on us and run, which some of our
True.
guests have done. How are we going to handle having two Jens on the show? How are we going to?
Yeah.
How's this going to happen? This is confusing.
It occasionally happens on air. One of us has to go by last name.
Yeah, we could do that. You can say Narrowmore. That's fine.
All right, we'll
Nomad. You
we'll
can
call
just say nomad.
we'll
The
call
nomad.
Yes.
Nomad Jen.
Narramore, and we'll
Nomad Narramore. Oh my gosh, who doesn't love an alliteration?
That's right.
Nomad Narramore. That
Nomad
works.
Narrowmore. It works great.
Jen, you got your sunscreen on there.
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Good.
Are you working
sent a
tonight? James Fan, are you working tonight? Or
I actually am. I live in a new world. We started a new venture, and I'm trying to kind of step away from the old school Ron Burgundy newscast. But the guy in a normal day in the old school world, I just do two newscasts a day, 5 and 6. But the guy that would typically be doing the 4 and the 10, he has no voice, so I'll be doing the 10 o'clock tonight, Central Time. But normally, I'm most of my work, it's on the new digital venture and not the Ron Burgundy side. But
Yeah.
it's all good. And listen, I've been there at this particular television station for 29 years, and I want to help them. And to their credit, they work with us. It's very odd that they would allow me to do something like this, where I've got the new world going and I've still got their world going, and they've been great to work with. So I'm very thankful for that. So it's a unique situation that has worked out, I think, very well. We'll find out when we have a severe weather episode where we're kind of, they'll take our coverage and then they'll break out of it because we're covering the whole state, and obviously they're just in one television DMA. But we've done some rehearsals, and we think we've got it set and ready to go. Now we're just waiting on weather. We've had no weather since in fact, we went live Saturday night. I do weather support for the University of Alabama football group, and so I have to be at every home game. So after the home game, we went back to our studios and went live for an hour. We had no severe weather, just raining, and we clearly told everybody that, but it's the first time we've actually had weather, and we just wanted to get everybody in there and test it when there was real weather happening. So it was good. It was very good.
Yeah.
All right. So
What else was happening? Talladega. The race was at Talladega this weekend too. I mean, I guess the race didn't get affected by the storms, but still,
they were lucky.
There's a lot.
John Gordon was in the infield, by the way, in his party bus. He's got an old Bluebird. Did I see you, John, in the infield at Talladega? Was that somebody else?
It might have been me. I'm not sure. My disguise, I guess, came off.
All right. Welcome to our television viewers. It is 7 o'clock Central, and obviously we have absolutely no weather issues. So let's get this show going here. We're going to record the show. So let's start with track 1 and track 2. And here we go in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
You're listening to WeatherBrains. They're kind of a big deal.
WeatherBrains episode number 1031, 1031. This is for the 20th of October, which is a marvelous time of the year. Goodness gracious. I will say that where we are today, the weather just could not have been better. The golden days of fall are here. And John Gordon, thank you for sending the air mask down our way. We owe you a big thanks. Thank you so much, sir. You are a good man.
I love CP Air. CP Air is very good. I actually open a bottle of champagne every time the MT Air goes that way.
Yeah, the battle between maritime, tropical, and continental polar is always fun. And the CP is the winner right now. And it is just so nice that this cobalt blue sky.
CB is the winner, like the Denver Broncos were the winner when the New York Giants had a 20-point lead with 6 minutes to go.
You go, indeed. So, but no, it was just this is a marvelous time of the year, and we had some needed rain during the frontal passage, which was good with no severe storms. It was just great. So let's go to our Oklahoma correspondents. We'll start with James Adelot. Dr. Adelot is up Interstate 44 in Tulsa Town. Are you enjoying some CP air?
I am. We were 46 yesterday, but I was in Parker, Colorado for that low. Still the coolest that we've been since, I believe, mid-April. So yeah, everybody is dancing in the streets here, and it actually rained too. So that was kind of nice, and more rain's on the way. How do you like that?
So tell us quickly about your journey, your adventure. How was it?
It was fall break for the kids, so we shot up to Rocky Mountain National Park and did some hiking, and it was in the 30s, and we got tons of grapple on us initially on day one. But let me tell you, that 10,000-foot air is the real deal when you're going up an incline hiking, because I'm a flatlander and woo, it tore me up.
I'm a Flatlander is our new show title. That's the working show title for the week. No, we were in the mountains of Colorado, and my wife actually got the altitude sickness. It didn't bother me, but she struggled with it up there. So it is a different environment for sure. But welcome back. Let's see, Dr. Kim Cloco McLean is on the line from just down Interstate 44. Kim, do you have the CP air in place there?
We do. Yeah, we got some of this air mass. Now, the chill factor to it lasted from last night until about noon today. And then it felt like we were right back in summer again. But I really loved the like one day of fall, and just like John Gordon said, as soon as we get out of that empty air mass and you get a little bit of that CP, I cracked open a bottle of some special wine over here too. So had to celebrate that day. And by the end of this week, we're going to be back to it. So it's sort of a slow entrance into fall, but we're getting there. And oh, it's going to be just glorious. Come this weekend, it's going to be glorious.
And I'm not so sure Troy Kimmel got much of this. I do the weather on a radio station in McAllen, Texas, and I used 98 for the forecast high today. So Troy was, yeah, I'm not so sure he got into this. But Jen Nairmore, who is at an undisclosed location, is going to bring in our special guest. Jen, you were
right.
Bill Murray is out. We should mention that we've got a few folks, regulars out. Bill Murray is out. Rick Smith is out. Troy Kimmel is out. It's 50 Cent Beer Night at Hooters, so that's where those guys are. So since they're not here, Jen, we're going to let you introduce our special guest.
I'm very excited about this. I have known our guest for 30 years. We have not seen each other in a while. We went to school together, and when I was in Birmingham in September, Bill and I were talking about, who are we going to have on the show and looking at guests. And I look up on the screen, there's the Weather Channel, and there's Jen. And I said, have we ever had Jen Carfagno on the show? And he goes, no. And I said, let me get on that. And she's here. Jen is the co-host of America's Morning Headquarters at the Weather Channel and co-host of the Weather Geeks podcast for more than 25 years. She's covered everything from blizzards and hurricanes to tornadoes, helping viewers understand the science behind the storm. A Penn State meteorology grad, Jen began behind the scenes at the Weather Channel before moving on camera, where she became a trusted and familiar face on the flagship morning program. She earned national recognition for her coverage, including Emmy-winning work on Hurricane Helene. Known as the Dew Point Diva, Jen brings both expertise and enthusiasm to everything she does, whether it's explaining complex weather or jamming to country music. On Kenny Chesney's No Shoes Radio, Jen Carfagno, welcome to WeatherBrains.
Thank you guys. I'm so thrilled to be with this group. Truly, I've listened to your podcast, I've watched you on YouTube, and I'm thrilled to be invited to be a part of this.
We are excited to have you for sure. And as I mentioned, we've known each other for a while because you were about, what, 2 years behind me
Mhm.
at Penn State. And the video operations had just started. And I will just say right off the bat, I knew immediately you were going to be a wonderful broadcaster. I mean, you have a great style. And it's going to be neat to explore your career with everybody on the show and all of our listeners. And I just think it's going to be awesome. And so we're going to throw you the question we always throw everybody. Where did this get started? Did you have a young person weather bug? Was there an event that got you started? So why did you want to become a meteorologist?
So many meteorologists have that story where they, a tree in their front yard was struck by lightning, or they had a big snowstorm that snowed them in. I felt like I had a lot of the stories all combined, but no one huge one. I just was always into it. We had big snow. I lived in eastern Pennsylvania, outside of Philadelphia, and the snow fascinated me as a young kid. There was a tornado down the street in Limerick, Pennsylvania. That fascinated me. Whenever we got hail, which was not often, but it happened, I was there with my weather books trying to figure out what was going on when my parents were trying to bring the cars in the garage. And so it was just a lot of these things. I didn't really think that that could be my job, though. And it really was in high school. There was a calculus teacher, Mr. Flango, who had a crossword bulletin board, like careers in meteorology or careers in math. And meteorology was one of them. And I happened to love calculus. He was my calculus teacher. And I was like, oh, wow, this seems kind of neat. And then another teacher had his pilot's license. I was also interested in becoming a pilot because I love the clouds. I thought it would be neat to fly up there. And he gave me a book to read, and I realized how much weather there was. It was just all these little things that kind of added up to me always being the kid that knew about the weather. And so I think it was just inevitable, honestly, that I would that I would go to college. I went to Penn State to get my degree in meteorology, and while I was there, I got to intern at the Weather Channel, and then now the rest is history, really. I've been there ever since.
That's awesome. That is great. Bill Murray wanted to be on the show tonight. He is a fanboy. I mean, he pretty much just said it. He loves Jen Carfagno, and he had a few questions. And one of them was, did you watch the Weather Channel as a young person, and who were your favorite meteorologists?
Oh, definitely. Yes, definitely. That was like in the morning when the snorkels were on. I don't know. Do you guys remember the snorkels? It was a cartoon. It's like they're weird blue and green colored characters with like snorkels on top of their head. They could live underwater that way.
I remember those.
And I did really like that cartoon, but I would flip over to the Weather Channel and watch the Jim Cantori and Mark Mancuso Power Hour, Italian Stallion Power Hour in the mornings. And that was one of my favorites.
Yeah, yeah, there were some great ones. And I think that a lot of us who were a child of the 80s, that's when the Weather Channel got started, early 80s. We didn't watch other shows. We watched the Weather Channel all the time.
Yeah. And
And
it's
it's
really
awesome.
helped me understand that the weather, I mean, how tied in my job was to the weather was I worked at the snack bar and I was a lifeguard. And I realized when the big H came over Pennsylvania, I was going to have to work. And if there was an L, I wasn't. And it was these simple little correlations. I mean, we didn't have the internet. I wasn't able to look up what all this stuff meant. I just only had the Weather Channel.
Yeah. So talk about Penn State. So you're a Pennsylvania girl, so you're able to go to the best meteorology school there is, in my opinion. But
I'm
no,
not biased. Got my Penn State sweatshirt on. I've got my mug. I'm definitely bragging here today.
That's right. We're still proud Penn Staters, even though our team is struggling big time. We put a lot of effort in Iowa this week. We won't go there though about the struggles of our football team, but our meteorology department is awesome. So talk about Penn State, your time there and your fondest memories. What did you learn and what did you see when you were there? What did you get involved with?
Such a change to that since then to now, and when I see the meteorology program has grown into, it's amazing. It's huge. They have this amazing, big, beautiful digital map wall. And I just remember my first time going to the weather station at Penn State, and it wasn't right away either because you don't take a lot of meteorology classes at first. But I walked in there, and it was all these Difax maps that were hanging, and they were the kind that just came off the printer, and it smelled like ink. And I just felt like a very tangible link to, wow, I'm here. I've made it. This is it. Um, And Penn State was known for their big meteorology program. I'm a native Pennsylvanian, so it was sort of a no-brainer to go to Penn State, but I did apply to Rutgers and the University of Delaware as well for atmospheric sciences. But ultimately, I mean, it was like, yes, of course I'm going to go to Penn State and I'm going to cheer for the football team and I'm going to go get my degree in meteorology. And I had zero idea what I would do with it. I thought maybe I'd become a forecaster, but I really didn't even know what opportunities there were. And I have a daughter who's just a freshman in college, and I'm looking at her journey thinking that I didn't know half of what she knows now. Like we just went to college, see what happens after that, you know? Penn State was a great place to be a college student. University Park and State College was just so much fun. The meteorology program was small. I mean, it was the biggest of all when it comes to meteorology programs, but at Penn State, it was one of the smaller programs compared to engineering or business. We had a nice little niche community there at Penn State, so I always felt like that was my family. Made a lot of good friends through the program. I have so many good memories too of just hanging out in that weather center. I mean, campus weather service, volunteering for 3 a.m. Shifts because I did know that this was a 24-hour business and I'd better figure out if I could handle that kind of thing. And luckily I could.
Yeah. So did you do radio shifts?
Yeah, I did
Yeah.
campus weather service radio. Yep,
Yeah.
the early one.
Yeah, I did too. Yeah, those were so good, and I loved it so much. I stuck with it for my entire life. So let me throw Kim and James Aladot in here. You guys, I see, and I warned Jen to be careful of the chat because you get so distracted in there.
Oh, I didn't even.
Yeah, be aware of James Aladot's puns, but you two
It's a rat hole.
It is. But you guys take it because there's a few things you want to throw her way.
Oh my gosh, you guys have a lot of questions. Yeah.
we have questions. We were just curious, first and foremost, where the nickname Dew Point Diva came from.
Oh gosh, Jeff Morrow gave me that nickname circa 2008 or 9. And it was more, he was kind of giving me a hard time because I talked about dew points so much. We were partnered at the time. And it was like, I've always felt like dew points are the most underappreciated piece of weather data, and they're the most useful. In fact, I mean, I could probably make a severe weather forecast, certainly a rain forecast, a fire forecast, a fog forecast. Like, just give me the dew point. You know, that's all you really need. I can tell you how the air is going to feel. And by the way, this maritime tropical air, the MT air that you all are sick of, I love that kind of air because of the higher dew points that are associated with MT air. I enjoy a little bit of texture to my air. But
there's the show title.
Wow.
Yep.
That is the show title.
But anyway, Jeff Morrow was really just giving me a hard time about it. And he's like, you're such a dew point diva. And then it just kept sticking. And so here we are, I guess, 15 years later.
Intended with that air, the real feel. So, James Adelot, do we want to let her in on exactly what kind of crowd we are with the way you took off with the Dew Point Diva and turned it into a song? Would you like to go there?
I will not sing it because the idea is to actually have people stick around. But yeah, who said Duke of Earl? Was that John?
John Gordon. Yeah, for some reason, Dew Point Diva made him think of Duke of Earl. Don't know where that came from, but that happened.
But yeah,
the Duke of Earl and the Dew Point Diva.
Yeah. It seems like a logical train of thought to me, but for most normal people, it probably doesn't.
Well, just Jen, now you can know there's a whole song for you to the tune of Duke of Earl. Dew Point Diva, Diva, Diva.
I can kind of hear it in my head.
Welcome to WeatherBrains.
Now, if it becomes an earworm, it's John Gordon's fault.
It's totally his fault. Okay. So sorry, Jen Naramore. That's what we have for now. And I will, at least me, I will step aside in shame.
No, that's fantastic. And she's still here. She hasn't bolted yet. So we'll go ahead and we'll try to rein this back in. And I do want to talk about getting into the Weather Channel. So you said you interned when you're still at Penn State, right? And that just kind of got your foot in the door. So talk about that
Yeah.
process and how was it like interning there and what have you?
That was again another step in my journey of not even realizing that that was a possibility for me. And I should really go back to just deciding to go to college for meteorology. I saw my local weatherman, and I don't think that we had any weather women at that time on local. And of course, I watched the Weather Channel, but I didn't really know anyone else that had a job as a meteorologist. So I really had no idea what the career options there were for meteorology. And then when I got to Penn State, I did the radio thing. But again, I still did outside of a broadcast element. I didn't understand, and in forecasting, of course, I'm working for the Weather Service. But what other kind of option that there would be? And so when I learned about the Weather Channel internship, I thought for sure, like, there's only a handful of really special people that would ever even get considered for this, and I'm not one of them. I'm just just a basic college kid from Penn State. And I had just given a tour to James Spanier, who was the dean of Penn State, of the college, not just our Earth and Mineral Sciences, and it went well. And I think that helped me get a good recommendation in order to get the Weather Channel internship. And so that's kind of how that all ended up. So I applied, I got a letter back, I got a phone interview, and all of a sudden I'm trying to figure out where I'm going to stay for the summer in Atlanta, which is really, really exciting. I was nervous, but I was just so unbelievably excited. And it was for a credit, or I guess 2 credits. And so I had to document the process along the way. And when I got to the Weather Channel, it was just so laid back. I had no idea what to expect. And it was really just a bunch of meteorologists forecasting, talking about the weather. Everyone was so into it, like the biggest group of weather geeks you will ever meet. And everyone is still like that today, even people who aren't meteorologists. And Jen, you probably remember that from the Weather Channel, which is everybody is into it, whether your background is meteorology or not.
Yeah, absolutely. It's you geek out over every storm and what are the models saying and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, it was that way in the radio department as well. And John, you had a question that you wanted to throw our way.
Yeah. So Jen, I'm a big fan. So I'm wondering, at the Weather Channel cooler, the water cooler, the coffee pot, what has been the reaction to James Spann and this digital world? What is the reaction to your colleagues? Because this is a brand new way. I do some fill-in TV weather, and the president of Tegna basically says, if you don't go digital, you won't have a job. This is the way we're going. What's going on? What are your friends saying at the cooler and the coffee pot?
I think the conversation most meteorologists are having, which is trying to look into our forecasting crystal ball and figure out what the future of TV weather is going to look like, because it's probably all of it, right? It's definitely digital because we can literally see that happening in front of us. And really, yeah, we're all trying to figure out what is the best way to get the message across when it comes to severe weather safety, because that's ultimately what we're all about. I have always felt like my job is a public service, and it's not. I mean, we're a private company, but as meteorologists, I feel like that was ingrained in us from the beginning, that our job is to serve and to serve the public and make sure that they have the severe weather information they need first and foremost. And then there's the entertainment part of it. And then there's the maybe make your life a little more interesting or easier because you know to bring the umbrella, that kind of thing. And so the conversations really are about the whole landscape. How are we going to do this? Is social media, how big of a role? I mean, it plays a huge role, but in the future, will it be an even bigger role? Digital meteorology. TV is obviously still a platform that is very popular and a great way to broadcast in some of these really big events like hurricanes, when you have the ability to reach a lot of people.
Let me just hop in here real quick. Jen, what I hear from people that are doing this for a living, it's they don't know how to manage their time, because most of and again, this is mainly, I guess, for local people, but they're having to do lives on Facebook. They're having to do lives on YouTube. They're having to post constant updates on the station website. They're having to go live on TikTok. They're having to be on Instagram. They're doing more hits on old school television than ever before. They're doing these 30-minute digital only shows, and they're running out of time. The richest person in the world cannot buy 1 millisecond. You can't do it. We all have 24 hours in a day, and that's the greatest equalizer in life. It's time. And a lot of meteorologists are struggling with this, and especially those with young children. In my case, our kids are grown, and I'm an empty nester. My wife and I we're able to have fun, but I have a little more time now. How do you handle the demand to produce all these products and services? How
Yeah.
do you manage your time?
I think that is an excellent point and something, yes, that we talk about and all personally struggle with. And whether it's my Weather Channel colleagues or just, associates from across the whole weather TV enterprise. And it's hard to put it down, honestly, because I think like most of us here, I have such a passion for it. I would be on social media reading, responding all day if I could, but I've had to actually take a just a not say a step back, but let me just slow down and I'll work on social media during the time I'm working. I'll do a little bit at night, but it otherwise can be all consuming. Doing social posts, how much like what is the value? That's a question we all have to ask. What's the value of that? It's almost a marketing tool because it's how can you, I don't know, how can you even track who you're able to reach?
Well, it's and the thing is, none of us, at least, let me rephrase that. I've had no training in this. I think we're learning it on the fly. I'm so old, they barely had working telephones when I was in college. We certainly didn't have anybody to tell you how to handle Twitter and Facebag and the Gram and the Talk and all these other things. And it's a learning process, and it's really hard. But the other thing I wanted, Jen, I mean to hijack your segment here, but I have one more question. The women that I've worked with, Jen, they've been harassed horribly across social media. Horrible. Some of the things I've seen, it's just we did a whole WeatherBrains show on this. I would assume you've had to deal. How do you handle the negatives and the harassment that you receive if you do?
Yes, and that's another big part of social media. And I mean, I could spend I won't say hours, but I do spend time every day reporting accounts that are fake accounts of me. And I do it because I don't want someone to misrepresent me, but I also do it because I don't want someone to take advantage of true fans of mine and the network, be, because they think that social account is me. So that's and that's not personally damning, but it certainly is time consuming. But then when it comes to whether it's social post or even letters and mail, we have a great security team at the Weather Channel, so I work with them to try to filter as much as I can, document everything, try to turn it off, ignore it. I'm really big on the mute button on Twitter. When people are inappropriate, mute, block, report. I don't usually give too many second chances.
Well, I often, I get stuff, some old guy, but I see these younger women that are getting this horrible, horrible, horrible harassment content.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. And it's hard doing our job. It's hard enough. And then you have to deal with that on the side. But
Well, it does make me mad because I have to spend so much time on the people that don't matter. I want to spend my time responding to people that do matter. And sometimes to make me feel better, if I have to do a lot where I'm saving social media messages that are inappropriate to make sure they're logged, I'll spend the same amount of time responding to other people that are just having a conversation about the weather because I want to leave it on a positive note and remember the reason why we are all engaging in social media in the first place. But it's a shame, and it's just we're too available for people to reach us. There's no privacy. There's no privacy.
Yeah, I'm so glad, James, that you brought that up because I wanted to get Jen's perspective on this. And, what kind of encouragement would you give to some of the young females who are coming up and want to do broadcasting? Because it's daunting. I love what you're doing though to balance and to end things on a positive note, but it's got to be just so daunting. And, for some of these young females who are not experienced, and and they're trying to find their way. What kind of advice and encouragement would you give them?
I know. You have to have really thick skin, and I think I do, but at the same time, there's lots of hurtful things that are said. Honestly, and this has come with age and time, but sometimes when I read mean comments, I try to figure out what I can learn from it. Maybe I should be talking slower on air. Like maybe I shouldn't wear that dress anymore. I don't know. Like some people are just being mean, but sometimes there's constructive things I can find. So I try to look at it that way. Um, I try to ignore the nasty stuff as best I can. The hardest is just like I know my mom and my kids and my grandmother when she was here would read these things, and they're the ones that would alert me to some of the really nastiest posts, and I'd be like, I need to get these out of their view. I didn't want them to see it, and so that became sort of like a responsibility, not for myself, but just to so that I wasn't being represented to my family that way.
Well, I certainly commiserate with you, and I'm so grateful we have women who have the strength to do what you do, to face that head on, and looking from all of the difficulties that you've gone through in your careers, we've taken on more and more of that with the way the world has shifted. I'm curious about a positive aspect of your experience, and you have an amazing career, and you've worked at the Weather Channel for such a long time. And I'm curious to know, in your history of working in broadcast to this point, what have been some of the neat innovations that you've seen in that can be in changing the way we emphasize different things in risk communication? That can be technologies you've seen take off, that you can do cool stuff and tell weather stories in new ways. What have been some of your favorite things that have happened in that time?
A lot has changed. My very first job, well, at my very first job at the Weather Channel was doing data graphics, putting the H's and L's on the weather maps. And then I got into forecasting, but then I went to our science and strategy department, and this was before anything was automated, right? Everything was manual. So we were trying to figure out how to get tornado warnings to automatically go to people's pagers. And so I learned a lot about the Weather Service and National Weather Service bulletins and products and VTech. The VTech line had just come out, and that allowed us to automate, unless of course there was an error, which errors happens, but to automate that process of getting tornado warnings to pagers. And then cell phones started to accept data, and then it just grew from there. It's like what else can we automate sending to people, because this is so fun. We can give you this right here for free. Here you go. And so that was an exciting first part of my career. I was a little fun fact. I was actually going to go back to school to get my MBA. I was enrolled at Emory University for an executive program. So it was every other Friday for 2 years. And this was while I was working in our science and strategy department. And I was doing the on-camera thing on the weekends as part of the Weather Channel apprenticeship. So I worked Monday through Friday, and then on the weekends, either Friday night or Saturday night or both, overnights, I would do on camera to try it to see if I was any good. And I did that for 5 years. And then at the end of that time, and then going back to school, I just couldn't handle it all. And so I actually gave my notice for the apprenticeship, and that's when they offered me a full-time on-air gig. So I tried to keep up the school thing for a little bit, but it was just, I couldn't take off every other Friday from my show. And so I kept pushing that, and all of a sudden I realized I really liked the on-air job. But anyway, to answer your question about technology, gosh, so much has changed. At that time when I first started, we only had weather information. We didn't have websites, and I guess local TV station websites were starting to become updated more frequently, but not all the time. It was just hard to get information. We had wires, AP wires. But I didn't think it was hard to get information. It was really just about the weather. And that was a really special time. Just looking back, I'm so glad I was a part of broadcast in that time, where all we had was a little bit of weather video sometimes, but really just the weather maps. That's it.
As I had trouble getting my unmute button, as I'm asking about technology, unmute. Well, with that in mind, I mean, did you find that there was almost a simplicity in the
Yes.
job, almost a refreshing straightforwardness to what the
Yes.
task was. Have things gotten more complicated now as we have the internet where everything and rapidly updating models? And now we have in severe weather coverage, you're not just looking at where are the warnings, let's talk about where they are. We have this rapidly evolving mesoscale analysis that you can look at, and models on that time scale, looking at the next 1 to 3 hours. And there's this pressure, I think a lot of forecasters feel, to be just absorbing a lot of information rapidly all the time. And there's a little bit less straightforwardness to the job, at least it seems to me. And I saw you nodding. Tell me about that.
No, you hit the nail on the head. It was a simpler time. And I very much love all the data that we have today. And I'm so thankful that we have it because it makes better forecasts. And I do feel like it enriches our broadcast. We have so much more to talk about, and it's useful. Um, but I do think back to that time where I wasn't trying to look up, I don't know, what events and festivals are happening and try to correlate it to the 3 hour forecast that I think they're going to have. Just, there's so many different moving parts, and working for a national network, there's a lot. It's not, you sort of have to pick and choose. You can't cover the weather in that level of detail for everyone. It's yeah, so while I look back and I really appreciate that time, I would never give up all this weather data that we have. It has made forecasting, yes, more complicated, but so much better. I love data so much. I'm the one that, like, every commercial break, I'm just looking at the latest I gotta know, like, if it changed by a degree with the temperature somewhere, or if the wind picked up. Certainly in hurricane situations, I'm watching pressure and all the buoys, and searching for new kinds of data. Just, it's a little side obsession.
It's Jen. Thanks again for being on the show. And you're 100% right there. And I put a note in chat and have been cajoled into talking about it. It seems like the biggest transition in 20 years from the way we do operational meteorology is that it's a load management problem now instead of an information deficit problem. So when I started, we wanted more. If only we had a radar here and could see this, or velocity data, or gosh, even dual pole data, which we didn't even know at the time was around. And now it's there's so much data, you have to know what to ignore, and it seems like you need to spend less time on each piece of data.
Or you have to spend less time because you can't possibly.
Right.
It's like a filter in our brain that is, you kind of have to build that filter in your brain to take a lot in and then only use what is necessary.
And it's like an airline pilot now, the way aviation has changed too, because now they're dealing with load management issues instead of just cerebral load management issues. Instead of wishing they had more information, they've got data coming at them like we do. And they're just, you've got to be able to know what to ignore and what to focus on. And that can change from situation to situation.
I mean, a lot of that is managed by some of the automation that has gotten done with forecasting. And I think, thank goodness, because how could we possibly take all of that in and really use it efficiently and really to its utmost? So thankfully that's there. And I think using machine learning, that'll keep exploding and improving.
Can you tell us, to that end, can you tell us a little bit about the support staff that you have looking with you? It can be more than one person's job to figure out how, like, keep on top of all of the data, keep on top of all the changes. What is that structure like, if you can talk about what the behind the scenes is at the Weather Channel?
Yeah. And so often when we have a big event going on, I will look around and I will think there is no place I'd rather be than at the Weather Channel during a big weather event, because everybody is so laser focused on getting accurate and timely information out. And so just for my team, I'm on air. I've got Dr. Greg Postel and Alex Wallace as the two other on-camera meteorologists. And then we will always have a weather producer with us as well. And why we're on air. We're all either looking stuff up for each other or our weather producers looking stuff up for us, when we're in a breaking weather kind of situation. But then there's other meteorologists that are working on building new graphics that will help support the weather story. Sometimes to get on air very quickly, or sometimes just to support the show stories of the day. But we've got a whole team just on current weather and current shows, and then there are other teams that are working on longer, more detailed type stories. The immersive mixed technology that we have, immersive mixed reality. I mean, those graphics take a huge team of graphic artists as well as meteorologists to, pull that together, because it's basically movie production with weather.
All right. Anybody else have any questions? I want to kind of pivot into your field work, because go ahead, John Gordon. I see you waving.
So, Jen, a lot of college students watch this. The Penn Staters, the Valpos, the Wisconsins, the A&M, the Purdue's. What advice do you have for them right now for the field of meteorology with the future? What one piece of advice do you have for them?
Make sure you're able to keep your options open. You have to have a very wide view, I think, when it comes to how careers in meteorology are going to change. I don't think it's going to look at all like it looks today, and I would say in a shorter time frame than 10 years. I think it's all changing. James Spann, talking about the digital network there, um, just the way people consume information. I look at my kids as a prime example, and the college kids themselves should look at themselves like, well, how do we consume information, and how would we want to consume information? So I think that's often when I talk to college students these days, I'm telling them this is going to be their challenge for their future. And whoever did that little that did you guys see the flurry of, I don't know what just came up on the screen? It was like a birthday celebration or something. Yeah.
That was John Gordon and his
Oh.
celebratory tone there.
I loved your answer, because I totally agree with it. So I'm glad you're talking to college students. They need to hear from you.
Yeah. And now, you know what? I
So,
need to
so
do more of that actually. And as my kids are getting older, I'm finding that I will have more time to give back, which is on my short list of things I want to do more of.
I have a nosy personal question. Nair Moore, can I ask this at this point? At this point,
Go for it. Yep.
I don't want to break your flow here, because you're a professional broadcaster. I'm I'm a total train wreck. So they had me on SEC Nation. I didn't get to be the guest picker on College Game Day, which broke my heart. That they picked Theo Vaughn instead of me. I mean, come on. I would have come on there with blazing analytics. But so ESPN called the Monday, this a week ago today, said, would you consider being on SEC Nation? So anyway, the long story, I took that show right down the tubes. They were professional broadcasters, and I took it down the tubes. So, but no, this and Jen, listen, if you do not want to answer this, don't answer this. So Byron Allen owns the Weather Channel, correct?
Yes.
He also owns local television stations. And it seems as if with his local stations, he's moving away from local meteorologists to you providing weather for his local stations. Where are we in that process? I see so many different reports. I don't know what to believe. So you would know what's going on.
We do have a team of meteorologists that provide local forecasts for some, I don't know if all, but for some of the Allen media stations.
Okay, so it is happening, and in some markets it stirred up a ruckus where a local guy that's been there for a long time is being released, and now they're getting their weather from Atlanta, and the station might be in Peoria or Walla Walla or Bangor or whatever. So you're not involved in that. You're not providing local weather for anybody.
No, I'm not. I'm on the team on the national network team, but we do have a team. Meteorologists working on that. They have a great studio and great graphics, and a lot of similar support, like that Kim asked about for my job. Similar support on their end too.
No, Jen is kind of a big deal. She doesn't do local weather. And listen, no, it's just like you and Cantori, you are the faces and the names of the Weather Channel. I'm thinking surely they're not going to pull them off of what they're doing to do local weather. So I think that's a smart move.
Well,
How
there just
many
wouldn't be
do you,
time either. We're working 4-hour shows 5 days a week, and 4 hours. I feel like I've done a Broadway show half the time when I'm done. I mean, it's intense.
so how are they on the formatting of that show? Are they and again, on SEC Nation, I blew past all the time cues. They were giving me all these raps in my ear and stuff. I'll rap when I'm finished. How structured is it, and how much freedom do you have just to ad lib and do your thing?
Yeah, so we have these 4-hour shows, and funny, I was on it was back when the Weather Geeks podcast was actually a show on TV. We did one, Don't Call Me a Weather Girl, and Ginger Z and oh, who else was on? New York. I'm blanking, but we were talking about not having enough time to do weather, and of course, and everyone in local was like, I've only got 2 minutes, maybe 4 minutes max, and I was like, I've got 4 hours, and I still don't have enough time to say everything I want to say. We're always feeling like we're running out of time because there's so much to talk about with the weather, and you would think we can't fill it, but we can. But we have, I mean, we work in hour-long blocks, and we have segments, we have commercial breaks that are hard set, and we make a plan every day. We have a rundown, just like most TV shows do. So we make a plan, we know the top stories, but then things go off the rails, and most of the time they let us do that because
That's
we
when
can't
it's
help
good
ourselves.
that's good live
Yeah.
television when it goes off the rail. That's what this show does every week. No, hey, Nairmore, they invited me to be on Weather Geeks back when it was on the Weather Channel. One time, they never invited me back. So that means I took that show down the tubes. This is when Marshall Shepard. Do you know Marshall Shepard,
Yeah, yeah.
Jen?
Marshall and I both host the Weather Geeks podcast.
Yeah, yeah. He was the host, and I love Marshall. I mean, and he was very kind to me, and he let me take it down the tubes. But never more. They never invited me back, so that speaks
Well,
volumes.
to be fair, I think most people have only been on one time, except for maybe Rick Smith has been on. Yeah, he's been on twice. But so next time you've got Rick on the Weather Brains, you
I'll
can
bust his
take that
chops.
vote.
Yeah, yeah.
Exactly. Kim, you had something.
I feel like we're in battle of the podcasts here. This is amazing.
Exactly.
Well, I was going to go for a different personal angle, and you'd mentioned Jen Naramore, that you had worked with Jen Carfagno, and I was wondering if you guys could talk about your overlap. Take us back to the OG story here of the Jens at the Weather Channel.
I know,
Well,
going all the way back.
I know. Well, our first overlap was at Penn State. I was the video operations had just started, I think, in 95. And I was the vice president of the video operations group. And Jen was coming up 2 years behind me. So that was our first overlap was at school. And then I started at the Weather Channel in 1997 in the radio department. And so we mainly our overlap was just kind of passing in the basement hallway, I think.
Did you ever play on the Weather Channel softball team or in the bowling league?
No, the 3:30 to noon kind of cut me out of anything having to do with life for the first 3.5 years of my career there. But yeah, we just stayed friends because we were, Penn Staters, and, but we were on totally different schedules because you've worked all kinds of shifts and so have I. And we're, just friends passing in the night kind of a thing.
Literally early. I mean, I was on mostly early schedules, and just going back to that time, it was such I feel like my grandmother when I say this, but like such a grand time to be in TV. It really was. It was before the big sort of .com. Everyone had like ping pong tables, but we just had fun, and
we did. Yeah, and it was a great time to be in radio as well, because there was a lot more interaction. This was, I started in 97. I did morning drive. And so it was I was part of the radio show on all of these different radio stations, from Kansas City to Roanoke, it didn't matter. And then as time went on, it became much more automated, to the point now where I'm doing things from my house or whoever house I'm in or whatever hotel I'm in at this point, nomading it. It's the cool part is I can do the radio stuff from anywhere. I'm on about 50 cities around the country right now. And it's still a cool job, but I miss that interaction. I miss the interaction with actual people and colleagues. It's hard. I've been working by myself and talking to myself for 13 years, working from home. And so I miss that. But there was just something about the Weather Channel in the late 90s, early 2000s. It was a lot of fun. And it's where I wanted to work ever since I was 12 years old. So I know it was the same for you, Jen.
Yeah. And I did want to ask you, actually, how did you get to the Weather Channel? Did you, I don't know why I didn't know the story. Did you just apply? Did you know somebody? How did it happen?
I knew somebody. When I graduated, I was on the 4.5-year plan. So I graduated officially January 96. And I could not find a job in weather at all. And I wanted to do tropical coverage. That was my first love, was the tropics. And I couldn't find a job. So I moved to Indianapolis and lived near my aunt. And I was a administrative assistant and working at Blockbuster Video. And I was, doing whatever I could to make ends meet. And then I had gone out and done a couple of audition recordings of traffic and weather just to see, just in case something came up, I had, some kind of audition. And Donna Pistilli worked in the radio department. And we went to school. Do you remember her? We went to school together.
I guess I remember her from the Weather Channel.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So she was in the radio department, and she wrote to me and said, "We need women in radio." And I said, "There's a radio department at the Weather Channel." I had no idea that there even was. And so I sent those brand new audition tapes down there, and they hired me. And I was so green. And, they plopped me into the morning drive shift, 3:30 to noon. And I learned a lot very quickly. And then I left actually for 2 years and went to the Latin America division. And then I came back to radio and finished my time there at the Weather Channel in 2012. I eventually got into the afternoons, and that's where I started really getting into severe weather coverage. And because in the mornings, you had your occasional, tornado outbreaks, but for the most part, it was the winter storms and what have you. But totally different beast when you're in the afternoon, and there's the printer would, this is why we're printing mornings.
You had to wait for the warnings to come off on the printer.
Yeah.
And we would write like either a thunderstorm symbol or a little tornado spin. So quickly give them to whoever was on the desk at the time. Everything took so much longer back then.
It did. And we would get complaints from our radio stations because they're like, "What is that noise in the background?" And especially in the afternoon, because we had the printers in our booth and they kept going off, every 5 seconds with the brand new warning for whatever markets we were covering. So anyway, that's how I kind of broke into it. And once the company made some changes and I found myself somewhere else, then I was hired at the Storm Report. And it was awesome because I love doing radio, and I, like you, I did campus weather, that early shift. And that's how I kind of got started on those little radio stations in Pennsylvania. And I really enjoy doing it. And it's been a fun part of my career. So anyway.
No, I do remember way back when doing campus weather service weather that there was only 1 or 2 stations that we were able to actually interact with. It was mostly we had to record it and they played it back. But because it was the Du Bois, I think, that we got to interact with. And it was just, I mean, as a college kid, just it was everything. It was so exciting. And we got to do the forecast ourselves too.
Yes, we did. It was awesome. Yeah, Penn State, they just had such a great establishment for, giving you the opportunity to do broadcast. They've grown so much. I went back a couple of years ago, and it's so different, but it's so neat to see how much it's grown. And I'm sorry, I got distracted by chat because James Aladot said, "Be kind, rewind." I'm assuming that had to do with
I'm watching it with one eye.
Yes, it's very distracting. I don't see questions in there, but I do want to pivot. I really want to talk about your field work. And And because you've been on, camera, done your different shows, but you've also been in the field. And I want just to kind of explore some of the different events that you've been able to cover. But also, do you prefer the field or do you prefer in studio? So I just kind of want to explore both of those things.
I like them both for different reasons. And I definitely think that being in the field makes me better in studio because I sort of really I can really feel the weather that we're talking about because I've been through it. And in different cities all around the country, because that makes a difference too. Different cities respond differently to different types of extremes. I think this answer will change as my kids are getting older now. One in college, one's a junior in high school. And once they're both in college, I think I would love to go in the field more because it's really exhilarating. I mean, well, often by day 2 or 3, I'll be like, why did I sign up for this? It's long, it's hard. We're soaking wet and freezing, and sometimes there's no power and you're eating almonds for 3 meals a day. But that doesn't happen that often. Most of the time we're able to find a spot with power. And it's just so exciting to be in the weather as a meteorologist. I just feel like when I can marry the data to what's actually happening, that's pretty cool. One of my favorite things to do on TV and actually on social media is to match the picture with the radar, the video with the radar. So because look at the radar and you see thunderstorms, or you just even see rain, you're like, well, what does that actually look like? And then when I can get a picture of that, you can so clearly see what's happening. It's one of my favorite matchups to do. And so when I'm in the field, it's 100%. Let's match my sky to the radar or the satellite or whatever happens to make sense. And I love that.
Go ahead, Oki.
I've got a question on, 9, maybe 10 months of the year, the weather in the United States is full of variety and you can have lots of relevant content. But man, there are some days that it is coast to coast boring. What do you do to stay relevant on days like that?
Well, tomorrow we're doing apple tasting. Um, there's always weather though. That's the thing. We go into shows on days like that and we think that we better come up with something. And then there's always something. There's always a little story, whether it's just using data and perspective to tell the weather story. It's not always about the storms. I mean, when people haven't had a temperature drop below 70 in months, like maybe in South Florida or things like that. There's all different ways, I think, to make the weather story interesting. But tomorrow is National Apple Day, and I happen to love apples. So we are doing a whole big extravaganza with taste testing and comparisons and interviews, and we'll look at how the weather has impacted apple harvest across the country. It'll be fun.
You're really getting to the core of the issue. Sorry.
Oh, brother, please. Great.
So, how do you balance the feedback that you undoubtedly get? Because you're running a balance of you have to be relevant to population because population equals commercials equals revenue.
Mhm.
How do you balance that with when people complain that you never cover what's happening in my area? Because we get that at the local level.
Yeah. And we do get that a lot, especially on social media. That's a great way actually for people to tell us that we're not. And me personally, I feel bad. I try to sneak in a reference to them, even if it's not in a weather story that we happen to be covering. But I have to be realistic about what we're able to do. It's hard to make everyone happy.
Well, as much as it is hard to make everybody happy, I think you guys also have a really special role in sharing the weather story. You're talking about the mechanics of the big picture. And my sense, having been just a consumer of the Weather Channel, other local and then local media, is that those things work in concert together. That you get that big picture story, here's how everything's working, and then when you drill down, then you sort of understand, oh, here's how I fit into that big picture and what could change. And in my mind, honestly, the more that we can marry these things, the more that we can help people really understand what we're trying to say and understand the fullness of what's possible. So Nothing for anybody to feel sad for there. It's just a world of different scales of analysis that all have their value. So something that I'm curious about, as you were talking about the local stories that you're using to fill in time as we're getting toward the fall, yes, apples come to mind. That's one kind of great story, but also things like the fall foliage. Are you involved in the fall foliage forecasts at all? I don't know if you're tracking any of this, but there are a couple of possible points of interest this year. In the northern tier of Michigan, they had a devastating ice storm that has really affected the trees in mid to northern Michigan. And I understand that the East Coast, they had, some really dry weather. And so I don't know if you guys have been talking about this yet. How are things looking for the the fall foliage forecast? Tongue
Yeah.
twister, to your knowledge.
And just my point of view, just from watching it for so many years, it seems like everyone's running a little late this year, except for maybe the Mountain West, the Aspens. They were spectacular. And I actually want to go back and look at what kind of season in spring and summer they had, because I want to remember this, because it was the best I've ever seen that color. It was unbelievable, vivid. Now they're getting snow at elevation and it's gotten colder, so that'll probably put an end to that
Oh,
color.
the aspens, we missed it by about a week. In some of the valleys and lower elevations, still fantastic. But when you got up to higher elevations, every trail was covered with aspen leaves. And
Oh,
like, oh,
I saw that one time I went out for the first day of fall to Breckenridge, and I had to do broadcast, but I had altitude sickness. So that was a really hard trip, but it was so stunning. But you go right up to 9,000 feet with no stop in Denver. I mean, I landed in Denver and then we drove right there. That was a big altitude change. So that was a toughie, but gosh, what a beautiful place in the first day of fall. It was perfect.
Jen, you've been a part of some big coverage. You've got a new Emmy behind you, and that is for your Helene coverage, correct? And
Yes.
big events, just some heartbreaking events. And talk about those type of things and that type of communication, especially for like a Harvey or a Helene and some of those events that you've had to cover. And what does that mean to you personally to be able to go out in the field to do the coverage and also the follow-up and just some of the stories that can be heartbreaking. Just, talk about your process and what's important to you with those type of big stories.
Yeah. I'm glad you asked that question. Because that going in the field, especially, but even in studio, we feel so connected to these stories, and it's hard to leave actually when you're done your live coverage and you're in the field, because you just want to jump in and help. Sometimes you feel like all you've done is report, but have you done anything tangible, and we all do what we can always. Of course, if there's a place where we see a need, we jump in and help. But I do actually think it's very important that these stories get reported on and that everyone knows what's happening, especially in events like a Helene. I was actually in studio for Helene. We had a team out in the field, but without the news reports, how would anyone know how bad it was? I mean, it's such an important story to tell always. Being in the field, you get a chance to talk to people and to get a more personal side to the weather event. And that always really brings it back home to the reason why I really love this job, in that I feel like I make a difference. I truly feel like weather information is critical for safety and just for personal enjoyment of life, and that safety is a big part of that. But the weather is the backdrop for every single day of your life. And sometimes it's really bad. And those are events that you'll never forget. You'll kind of measure the rest of your life, like before Harvey or after Harvey, or before Helene and after Helene. And that's kind of how I actually live my life. Almost everything I remember based on big weather events that happened. Like this, we had this thing happen in my kid's life. Oh yeah, that was before Hurricane Matthew. Or, just I can picture every big weather event and how my life kind of fit into it. Really make an impression, both in the field and in the studio. And some of the hurricanes that hit the islands affect me a lot because we don't go there most of the time. We did have crews in Puerto Rico for Hurricane Maria. In the past, I think we had Mike Seidel maybe in Cuba once or twice, but it's just usually too hard to go and actually to make sure that we can get out of there. And and the islands just aren't built for the most part to not just maintain themselves during the storm, but after the fact. I mean, getting supplies in. I remember in that 1-2 punch with Irma and Maria, you had Irma that came through St. Martin and then the British Virgin Islands and St. John. And then you had Maria come in and was like going right at St. Croix. And it was, and Puerto Rico, it was like that was the lifeline for St. John. So we're watching this happen and we are like disconnecting all these dots and dominoes that are falling. It's like this, you know, I don't know, we become very, when I say we, because we talk about this a lot of work, we're just feel very connected to these stories, even if we never actually get to talk to the people there. But I hope that they know that we truly care.
Yeah. Uh, Talk about, and because we just had the anniversary of Katrina, and I know you all had a series, then you have a series of remembrances, and you know,
Mhm.
somebody who, I mean, I'm all about the history and remembering, and because just like you know, you're going through your life and you know, you're basing it on, you know, this is, you know, pre Matthew or whatever. That's how most people are in their lives when they're dealing with a big event. You know, it was before the tornado hit Xenia or whatever. It's, you know, people are there. It's how their lives have been impacted. Talk about, you know, the review of Katrina and why do we remember? Why is that important to look back and remember some of these events that have, you know, had such an impact?
Mhm. I think it's important to recognize just how big and impactful the event was out of respect for everyone who was affected by it. And of course to try to learn from what went well and what didn't go well. After the storm, sometimes I'm in the field and people are often hesitant to want to talk on TV. They're upset. But usually what I'm talking to them about is, you know, help others learn from what you just went through. That's now is the opportunity. Now is the time to do that. And I think it's useful not just for people watching, but it's useful for the people talking through it because they can really identify like, oh yeah, I did this. I went to my safe room. I didn't have a basement, but I went to my interior room and look, that's all that's left. And it's like kind of saying and stepping through the process, I feel like is important.
I agree. In my experience, people have found healing in being able to share and connect and know that there are other people that have been through what they've been through. And to be able to, some people have never shared, and after they share decades later, it's brought a lot of healing.
Mhm.
So, you know, we're talking about big events, but there's also, you know, I want to pivot into a topic. John Gordon, I'm going to bring you in now, I think. You know, we're always talking about, you know, tornadoes or hurricanes or what have you. But, you know, there's some things that have been happening lately on the wind and are all of it is, John, I want you to describe what because you've been reporting to us here, some different instances of the wind and flying debris causing fatalities. And, you know, talk about some of the different reasons, you know, is it severe wind or is it, what kind of wind? I think one of them had to do with a nor'easter. So this is just general wind events. And, you know, kind of let's explore the topic of are we not covering these that well? Or, you know, or is there some better ways that we could be communicating? Why is there seem to be a little uptick in some of these instances?
Yeah, thank you, Jen. So let's go through three unique events. Okay. First one was a week ago, Saturday in Salt Lake City. Oh yeah, it's for you, Jen C. We have a big rock country concert called, I forget what the name is, Salt Lake City. It's Big Country Fest, Red Fest. And there were thunderstorms, and they used a mobile app. And the mobile app says we're going to be having a weather pause. So people started leaving, Kim. They started leaving. And this nice lady named Ava from Seattle, 23 years old, was with her people, all her country bands. and parking is hell, right? It's always hard to park at a concert. So she parked near a construction site. They were almost in the car, and a flying scaffolding from the construction site hit her and killed her.
Oh, gosh.
She's 23 years old. I'll just make this editorial comment right now. I always love when they evacuate. Let's evacuate. We got to evacuate Indy 500. We got to evacuate the Derby. We got to evacuate Tuscaloosa. Okay, then where do they go? No one will answer that question. No one, Kim. No one will tell you where to evacuate. Okay, that's one. Two is Columbus Indigenous Peoples Day, however you want to call it. New York City. Weather Channel did a great job on the nor'easter. The New York City Forecast Office did a great job. I listened to a national talk show radio host. I will not say who it is. I don't want the Eagle to be sued. So anyway, this person said the New York City parade people should have their heads examined and they should all be fired for canceling the event for a little rain. Just a little rain. He even mentioned that the rain it's just green on my radar. It's just green. It's called a nor'easter. What's the number one problem in a nor'easter, people? It's wind and the surge. And this 76-year-old woman who was doing whatever she was doing was hit by solar panels. She is killed. And the third thing, which I'll bring, which will be my pick of the week, there's a tease, James, I'm learning from you. So ABC News has done a bunch of stories about flying umbrellas. Jen, I don't know if you do that on the Weather Channel, but this is becoming a big issue on beaches. Mm-hmm. We've had people killed. We've had people maimed. And in June, I got my notes here. So in June in New Jersey, this lifeguard was impaled from the left front shoulder and extended out the back of her arm by a foot by a flying umbrella. So there's this guy now that set up this safety fund there, Kim, where they're teaching people to have weighted umbrellas on the beach. Most people just stick the darn thing in the sand and they think, well, it's good to 20 miles an hour. I don't need anything. Well, I'm telling you, these flying umbrellas, it may seem a little funny in a Wile E. Coyote cartoon, but in real life, they're doing some serious damage. So we got Salt Lake City from a thunderstorm with evacuation, which they left before the storm even really hit, and she gets killed. Then we have the New York City solar panels. Could have been any one of us on the show, just parked our car, go to your car at a flying solar panel. And it was a nor'easter. They had all the headlines out, the phone apps, everything was going. But this beach thing with flying umbrellas is a big deal. I just want to bring this up to everyone on the show, go round robin, but this is a bigger problem than anyone talks about.
Wind. It doesn't have a name. Should we start naming windstorms? But no, but in all seriousness, yeah, I mean, well, that kind of wind that took down the scaffolding could happen without a thunderstorm. I just saw winds gusting in Fort Morgan, Colorado to 70 miles per hour this morning. I didn't have time to go back and see why, but that seemed awfully windy just for a general synoptic situation.
Yeah, I mean, this is the difficult thing is we live in a world that has riskiness to it. And I don't know, John Gordon, you might find my answer unsatisfactory. I think I know I'm sort of the risk communication expert here, but I also see that there's a trade-off, to be blunt, about, being indoors all the time, away from the environmental risk, and missing out on being in the environment and all the benefits that it provides. So there's trade-offs to be posed there. I can't speak to what, people's decision making was in those different circumstances. Where I want to, I think where I want to help, and where I think a lot of us want to help, is helping people to feel informed about the potential, what could occur and what are the odds of that. Generally pretty low. I mean, these kinds of events are, man, what you're describing are those just awful, rare, terrible things. And I personally, sort of in my personal / professional opinion, those are terrible things to wrestle with. They're hard to experience. And I don't know how one makes a public policy decision or like a risk communication policy decision on those kinds of events. Or I think we need to communicate about wind is really helping people understand trees. And we get a lot of fatalities from tree falls in severe thunderstorms or sub-severe thunderstorms. And if we could make some headway, not just with the random debris, awful things that you were talking about, but just helping people, sort of scaffold their own homes against tree falls, like if they could just understand what the predominant wind directions are for severe storms, when they're going to get the highest gusts, what kinds of exposures they might have, just to consider. Maybe if they could think about when there's a forecast for high winds, high wind producing events, just what bedrooms to avoid in their home, maybe. I mean, we did this when I was growing up. We had nocturnal severe weather more than we had daytime severe weather. And so we would sleep downstairs. So we were close to our basement just to sort of, hedge our risk. We still slept. We were still in our house. We weren't like in the basement. We were playing it sort of in between. I think a lot of people do something like that. And so you can be aware of wind, and you can be aware of falling things risks. And it's all a balance, in my view.
I agree. Let me say this really quick, is that trees are what kills people on nor'easters, usually. There's always these tree deaths. But I'm just saying, for a national radio person to be blasting the people. LaGuardia, by the way, that day in Kennedy, they had 3 to 5 hour delays. There was a reason. It was a big nor'easter, and there was a lot of alert. But I'm just saying, you take a risk to go outside. I get that.
I was just going to add that I think it's valuable to keep sharing the stories about what happened. I mean, that's the only way you really learn about, even if it is a random risk, that it is a risk, and what made the umbrella pop up. It was a gust of wind. And, think just hopefully at least one or two people will hear the story and think about it the next time they put their umbrella in the sand, and, keep your head on a swivel, as they say, walking back in a thunderstorm from a concert. That whole concert thing, though, is a tough one. Football games, concerts, any kind of big outdoor event. That's a challenge with bad weather.
And do people know what a wind advisory is, or high wind warning? If there are those advisories out, do people understand what they mean? And then we've talked about this before too, about severe thunderstorm warnings, that people don't even pay attention to them anymore. We've talked about that, Stan, about severe thunderstorm warnings. And, is there a way we can communicate better? I don't have time. I had wind advisories all over the place today, and I don't know what to say in a wind advisory on the radio. Do people understand, what that means?
Same with flooding. I think the flash flood warnings are a really challenging one to communicate. And I struggle with personally even understanding how to behave in a flash flood warning. It's not, I know kind of what roads might flood around me, but somebody not from my area wouldn't know that. And I think we've got to make progress, I think, on that, all that kind of stuff.
And place matters so much. You're in one severe thunderstorm warning that may have 60-mile-per-hour winds. And that's really no big deal for most people in that severe thunderstorm warning polygon, unless you have a very wet, waterlogged soil with a large tree next to your mobile home or next to your house, that it can come down in 60-mile-per-hour winds, or you're on water. And we saw it in southwestern Missouri with the Branson Bell issue. And I think place matters. And I think you're right about this happening to one or two people versus 20 or 25 people. And I think there's just not this dread fear of the one-off wind death. And I don't know that that's ever going to change because wind deaths are going to be one or two at a time.
Yeah.
I kind of agree with Jen that we just need to keep telling people these stories to make people alert. I got in a robust discussion with a member of the Louisville Metro government. We tried to have a meeting after the Henryville tornado, and they didn't want to meet. And I didn't understand this, Kim, why they wouldn't want to meet when the storm was 18 miles from downtown Louisville. And they kept saying, but John, it didn't hit here. So we have no impact. I'm like, do you realize if this thing was 18 miles south, it would not have been good. And I was talking to my cat. No one was listening. I was literally talking to a cat, you know, and we were not communicating.
That may have
There's
to be
our
the
show title right
I'm going to
there.
say I was talking to my
Yeah.
cat. Oh my goodness. So I'm going to pivot to because we're going to go to our recorded segments soon, but I have two more things that I want to talk about, and then whoever wants to hop in, and then we'll give James Spann more time to ask more hard questions. But Bill Murray had another question for you, Jen, and you recently did a piece on wellness at Savannah Resort on behalf of Chevy Equinox. Interesting advertorial piece. What did you learn?
Oh boy, I loved this actually. It's a three-part series, and two of them have aired. There's still one to go. The one at Savannah, it happened to rain that day, and the desert in the rain is like nothing else. The smell in the desert in the rain, especially in the moments right before it rains. It was absolutely just breathtaking. And then when it stopped raining, but it was still kind of humid, I was just going up to the creosote bush, which is what actually creates that I don't want to call it pungent, but it's sort of pungent. It's like a very herbal essence. That's an aroma. And I was just going in and just like sniffing it because I loved the smell so much. It was just unique to me also compared to my normal wormy, earthy smell of my rain here in Georgia. Um, so that was really unique. And there were just a couple of great folks that worked at Savannah that spent some time with us to talk about the resiliency of the desert. And it just really made me appreciate everything about the desert so much more being there. I mean, these plants can go so long without rain, and the animals and everything just kind of works together. And it's a unique ecosystem. And I haven't spent a lot of time in the desert. I went out to Palm Springs, California when Tropical Storm Hillary was coming in. And that was the very first time I ever smelled the desert in rain, but it happened so fast. So it was like the dew points came up. I guess it came up in maybe the 60s, and then I could smell it. But then it rained so heavy from Hurricane or Tropical Storm Hillary that it kind of washed away the scent. So this was like all day. I was in a spa, just walking around Carefree, Arizona, in that spa-like smell, just because of the rain. So that was very unique. And the other piece that has aired so far was in Tucson, and that was a canyon ranch. And there's a lot of vortexes, which is really a deep kind of spiritual earth connection that a lot of Native Americans, there's a lot of stories dating back to their use of vortexes and for spiritual healing. And a lot of them are in dry creek beds. And so when it rains, even if it doesn't rain there, we know how the water can rush from far away and down into these dry creek beds or dry auroras. And could they be affected by the vortex? I don't know, but I definitely felt something there. I definitely felt an energy that I did not feel in other places. So I'm a believer of that. And the last one yet to come is in Sedona, and that was also a really unique experience.
That is so cool. My last thing I want to talk about, because we alluded to it earlier, is about country music. You're a huge country music fan and you love 80s and 90s country. That is my favorite country. And I actually have on my Sirius XM the No Shoes Radio channel, and I'm like, wait a minute, I know that person who's talking. So you had the opportunity to be a guest DJ. Talk about how that came about and how fun was that?
Oh my goodness. So this whole Poets and Pirates guest DJ sessions that Kenny Chesney has on his radio station on SiriusXM No Shoes Radio came about during the pandemic, because most of the content on No Shoes Radio was the concerts and the tailgates, and they had folks that went out and talked to everyone who was there, and aired some of the music and just the live reports from, or not live, but tape reports from the shows. And so they were looking to do something that just kind of, that was different. No one had really done this yet. So what Kenny and his team started doing was asking some of his friends, and I wasn't really a direct friend at that point, although we've become good friends, but a big fan, and I knew him professionally. And so they asked if I would do a 1 hour guest DJ thing. And I was the sixth one of everyone who's done one. And so it was a labor of love, I call it. Just because it, to pick the 10 songs or so, I think I picked 9, but then I inserted a Christmas one in because mine was going to air around Christmas time. I'm like, well, just in case, here's a Christmas one. But to only pick 9 or 10 songs was difficult. And I had no idea how this was going to get used. So I just kind of recorded ins and outs to every song. Like, you have a lot of radio experience. I don't. So I wasn't quite sure how it would go. But it really turned out quite well. And Kenny still tells me it's one of his favorites. So that was really cool.
All right. So I'm going to ask you more hard questions. We'll take a break. So, Jen, what do you think about the YouTubers? Ryan Hall, Max Velocity. They have millions of followers, millions of viewers, more followers than me, you, the Weather Channel. But what do you think about these people?
Yeah. I was at lunch a couple weeks ago, and there was a group of older women. I mean, I don't know how old they were, but I'm going to guess they were probably in their 80s. And I overheard them talking about Ryan Hall. And it wasn't the demo of people that I expected him to appeal to. And so that was interesting to me. I was just trying to listen in, like, how do you know about that? So I ask myself questions all the time. Is that going to be the way people are now going to consume weather information? Like I said earlier, this is a question I ask myself, and we talk about it, and as colleagues at work all the time, is how are people, everyone, the kids, people our age, our parents, how are they going to consume weather? And it's impressive, the reach of YouTube. And it's another, and like you, and not necessarily what you're doing now with the Alabama Weather Network, but even what you've always done since 2011 on social media is, do you have to be available 24/7 to respond to people? And what if weather happens when you're sleeping? Like, you don't have a network of people working on it like we do at the Weather Channel. So those kind of challenges are things I think through. What is your audience's expectation of how you'll deliver? Will you always be there 100% of the time? Just when it's a big weather event? How do you decide what's a big weather event? These are questions I have. I would love to talk to them both. Ryan Hall was going to be on Weather Geeks, but there's been too much severe weather interrupting either him or I, so we haven't been able to work that out. But that'll be a great conversation.
Well, Kim here pulled off a miracle. Kim here pulled off a miracle. Kim got Ryan Hall and Max Velocity together on the same stage at the National Weather Association annual meeting. And Kim, I thought that was a very productive session, don't you? I mean, I look back on it and I think it was great.
It was really good from our field, getting to know some of these folks a little bit, perspective, giving them a bit of a floor to say, hey, we have a serious interest in this and a stake, and we're part of the culture. I think it was really interesting to hear. There were so many people afterwards who were so grateful to have heard from them a little bit, just getting a little bit of that humanizing backstory, and to know that they want to be part of our community. That is its own refreshing take. And there were another, set of people who felt, I think, the weight of the changing of the world when they watched the session. We had a number. We had 6 different digital meteorologists, is sort of what we had come to call them. And they included Ryan and Max and a variety of other folks who do more local coverage in different respects. And yeah, I thought it was wonderful. I think what they're doing is really interesting adaptation to the technology and times that we live in. And there's a lot of potential there to reach every audience in an individual, personal way. That's the promise and the hope, right, of these technologies. At the same time, I think we're losing some of what you guys, Jen and Jen, you were reminiscing about the great times of being together in a studio and having a whole culture that we cultivated together around that and sharing those experiences and sharing the profession in that way. So yeah, all that to say, I think you'll have a lot of wonderful fodder. We only got a couple minutes of each of their thoughts, for this panel at NWA. You'll get a much deeper dive. I'll be really curious to hear what you guys get into the conversation and what you take away from that young man. My impression is honestly very positive. I think he does some things that stir the pot, but I'm not surprised that people are talking about him. And part of that is just what I saw in my own field work after the Quad State tornado outbreak, where he rose to prominence in that outbreak, and what he was doing for people, and people felt better represented in the Mid-South than they had with traditional chasing outfits. He's one of them. I don't know how he's made this appeal so broad, but he's really built an empire. And he really is interested in the heart of risk communication, which is about making an effective appeal to inform people. And he's not as interested in the fights over the window dressing pieces. And that kind of gets to my heart a little bit. I got to admit. So glad you guys are going to do a deep dive with him. He's an interesting character.
Thinking about this topic, we were talking about how we've had this explosion of weather data, like just going back through our careers, the beginning, we have so much data, we have so much information. It actually really makes sense that we have so many different avenues for weather information to get communicated. It would have to. It's like you can't have this bottleneck of things to talk about and it only go out through one spot. There's got to be many different options, and people consume entertainment, information in all different ways.
So one more question. We'll take a break here. So all of a sudden, I don't know when this happened. You have competition on the cable level with Fox Weather Channel. So how do you get along with these people? What do you think about Fox Weather?
Mike Seidel is over there, so quite well.
Yeah. So what do you think about it?
We are sometimes we're in the field standing next to each other on the beach. That happened just recently during Hurricane Aaron. I was here, and the Fox Weather crew was here, and we play nice. We're all meteorologists.
Now, did you put cottage cheese in their car or dead fish or anything? I mean,
well, but at the end of the day, and when it comes down to it, we're all meteorologists with the same passion for the weather and communicating the weather, and with the same mind of service to get the severe message out. So,
one more stupid question. I'll stop. Are you on TikTok?
I do have a TikTok account. I have tried not to get sucked into that. I see people and they can't get off of TikTok. I don't want that addiction.
Do you ever post any weather content or anything over there? Or are you just there
very randomly? Not much at all. I try for a little bit. I was like, oh, maybe I'll put like some recycling things over here, that kind of content. But no, I don't.
I'm trying to get John Gordon on TikTok. I think John would be a good TikTok dancer. I mean, I think that would be outstanding. John, you could make big bucks doing. I know you don't need money, but I'm just saying it's there.
I think you should be the SEC permanent picker. That's what I think.
No, that young woman, Laura Rutledge, she seems so nice, and she's up there reading her script, and they bring in me, and it just goes off the rails. I mean, totally down the tubes, unhinged. I mean, I was back there screaming at the crowd, and they were screaming at me, and her eyes looked like Captain Crunch. But no, that was fun. But no, Jen, you do a great job, and all these people can tell you I'm not nice, I'm honest. I think the greatest thing you can do is be honest, and you're a really good communicator. You're really good at relating to people, And I appreciate what you do for the Weather Enterprise. But you can't leave yet because we have to do picks of the week. What time do you wake up in the morning? When do you get up?
I have this amazing schedule where I'm on air at 10 to 2, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. So for most of my career, I was up at 2:30 or 3 a.m., but I no longer do that. So I'll probably get up at
Okay,
6.
so if you stay with us for about 15 more minutes, we can do picks of the week. So just hang tight. But we're going to take a break. We're going to hear from Tony Rice in his astronomy report. We've got Jen, and this week in tornado history, we will do picks of the week and more as WeatherBrains rolls along.
Looking beyond the atmosphere, here's Tony Rice with your astronomy outlook.
Update on a couple of comets that have been creating some excitement amongst astronomers. First, comet C 2025A6. It was discovered in images captured by telescopes atop Mount Lemmon outside of Tucson, Arizona, on January 3rd of this year. It was verified in images from a Maui, Hawaii-based telescope going back to November 2024, when its comma, or the glowing fuzzy thing around the head of the comet, was much, much smaller. Now, this comet has brightened to a point where it can be seen with the naked eye, but really only from very dark locations. Everywhere else, you're going to need a small telescope or some decent binoculars. You can also try capturing images of the comet using long exposure on your phone and a very steady hand. Comet Lemmon is expected to be at its brightest early this week as it passes closest to Earth. Find it, look low on the northwestern horizon after sunset. First find the Big Dipper, it'll guide the way. Follow the last two stars in the handle down to the bright star Arcturus, which is down and to the left about 30 degrees away, or a little more than your outstretched hand, thumb to pinky. Tonight, the comet should be right around your first knuckle. Tomorrow night, above the V between your thumb and first finger. And on Wednesday, Comet Lemmon will be about 10 degrees above Arcturus, or about the width of your clenched fist. Like all comets, its tail is pointed away from the sun, and in this case, roughly towards the Big Dipper. If it survives this visit through the solar system, we'll next see it pass through in about 1,300 years. The second comet making itself known in our skies is C 2025 R2 Swan, and its brightness recently peaked, and unfortunately that was well below the unaided eye. But it's still visible in the south after sunset with more sizable telescopes. Below Cygnus the Swan and down to the left of the bright star Altair. Comet Swan's tail will again be pointing away from the sun, which is what fuels those tails. That's your astronomy outlook. Follow me at RTP Hokie for more spacey stuff like this.
On the night of October 26, 1941, a devastating tornado tore through the town of Hamburg, Arkansas. It struck around 11:15 p.m. This violent storm, rated an estimated F4, carved a 10-mile path through Ashley County. It tore directly through the southern part of Hamburg, destroying more than 50 homes, some of the finest in town. In the chaos, 15 people were killed and 75 others were injured. Local doctors quickly converted a hotel into an emergency hospital to treat the wounded. The damage was so severe that parts of Hamburg were almost unrecognizable. But out of the devastation came an unexpected story of heroism. A bus carrying 20 soldiers from the 127th Infantry of the 32nd Division was passing through town on their way back to Camp Livingston, Louisiana, after furlough. They arrived just after the tornado hit. Instead of continuing on, they ordered the bus to stop and jumped into action, helping police in the streets, rescuing victims, and assisting with recovery efforts. They were technically AWOL. They were 24 hours late returning from leave, but rather than being punished, the men were officially commended for their bravery. Read more about these events on our website, tornadotalk.com.
So before we do picks of the week, let's do a quick tropical update. Let's put Jen C on the spot. So Jen, so you do tropical updates. Come on. I mean, so when does Melissa form? Where does it go? Go.
Okay. Well, it's close to forming, and I haven't looked at anything in the last 6 hours, so maybe it did already, and this is a trick question. But we're close, and the GFS has been very consistently taking it up over the DR and making that recurve like everything else has done this year. The Google DeepMind low pressure ensembles show that as one option, but about 50% also show something else going and sitting in the Western Caribbean over that deep ocean heat content and developing. So I think we have Melissa within the next 24 hours. Where does it go after that? I still really don't know. The European also is kind of taking it over the deep ocean heat content, which would give us something strong and something potentially dangerous. That's my update.
Or if it turns north, You know what would John Gordon? What's the highest mountain peak on Hispaniola? What 8,000 feet? What's John fly? John flies these things for a living. I think you're muted, John. You're speaking with no audio.
Sorry, James. I think it's 8,400 feet. There's been a bunch of storms in the high DR that have just destroyed storms, and the models don't ever really catch up. I mean, I was supposed to fly Odette years ago in December, '04, I think, and there was nothing. The mountain took it out. It was gone.
Yeah, I have seen that island crush storms like a bug on a windshield. And if this thing takes a hard right and the low level circulation tries to cross that, it could wind up just nothing. But you're right, Jen. It could sit out there. It's a lot of uncertainty, but it is. And I'm the same with you. I've been busy for the last couple of hours, but I looked at it still an open wave as we speak. So. And we'll keep an eye on that. Other than that, the cool CP Air, we've talked about that. That's the big story. But let's do picks of the week. This is where everybody on the show shares something that is really interesting related to weather. This can be a data source, website, hardware, software, anything related to weather. So let's go to James Adelot, who is recovering from his fall break trip. First off, when do you go back to work, James?
Go back tomorrow, and I've got a date with the razor tomorrow morning, and that's not going to be the very pleasant.
It's the worst.
Actually,
the worst. Yeah.
Yeah, it really is. So my pick of the week is the Paris tornado that was in the northern suburbs of Paris earlier today, and it looked very strong. Unfortunately, it was a killer tornado because apparently there was a construction worker in one of the high cranes that came down. And I think it was the Nashville tornado. One of the crane operators shot video from in one of those cranes, and it's absolutely terrifying because it takes a long time to go up and or down out of one of those cabs on those cranes. So very, very scary. And there's so much video. There's some distant video, some really close video, and it looks like some video from inside the tornado, which is just terrifying.
And again, we'll put all of this up on weatherbrains.com. Yeah, date with a razor, another show title. I've got at least a dozen show titles here. I mean, this has been a show title bonanza. But again, we'll have the video that James is talking about with his pick on weatherbrains.com. All right, Naramore, Jen in. Let's go to you, our nomad.
Well, I actually have a different view, and maybe one of the closer up views that he was talking about of that tornado. This Tomas Pusick actually posted this retweet from today's low Cape high shear situation in France. Tornadoes and cranes do not go together, and it's a very violent view, close up view of this tornado and the crane. It's just awful.
And again, this will be up on weatherbrains.com. John Gordon, what's your pick of the week?
Yes, sir. I want to compliment SPC first. They had a day 6 out. They had a 15%. It hit. And if you read the discussion this morning for day 7, day 8, the Deep South's going to have a problem with this baroclinic front that's coming in day 7, day 8. The Weather Channel, Jen, will be very busy. My pick of the week is beach umbrellas. ABC News did a fabulous 2-minute video. Everyone should watch this video. When you go to the beach, I'm telling you, when you get winds over 20 miles per hour, that's a problem. Watch that video.
Hey, John, let me jump in and say that Dr. Claesel, when he was emergency manager at the University of Oklahoma, instituted a lot of rules for the tents on tailgates that you had to have certain amount, 30 pounds, 50 pounds of weight on each tent pole to try to reduce that.
That's really cool.
Blowing canopy thing.
All right, so let's see. Kim, what is your pick of the week, please, ma'am?
Yeah, with all of our nostalgia today, we shared a lot of looking back in the Weather Channel, all that goodness. I have picked a Weather Channel nostalgia generator. Essentially, you put in your zip code, and it gives you the Weather Channel view, the classic Weather Channel view of what you would have seen on your TV something like 20, 25 years ago.
Awesome. So let's see. Gen C, we have stalled long enough. It is time for you to give us a pick of the week.
Well, I was ready because I know you do this, so I was ready. And I wanted to share an app I love. I think meteorologists would love it. It's called Everything Weather. And the best part about this is you can put in any location, you get the National Weather Service forecast, you get the radar, you get the satellite, you get all the data that's out there. But it's the AFD. There's a little button at the top of the screen for every single location, and it's got your area forecast discussion, which I try to read all of those every day, which is an overwhelming task, but that makes it pretty easy. So thought I would share.
John Gordon, how many AFDs have you written in your life?
More than I can count, probably 10,000. But I'm impressed that you read them. That warms my heart. I'm very impressed.
You can always tell John's because they said we'll let later shift decide.
Well played.
So my pick, we had the 20th lightning fatality of the year, and this came in Louisiana. And again, we'll put a link up to that on weatherbrains.com. So let's see, Gen C, plug away your social accounts. Plug anything you want to do. This is your big plug moment. Go.
Okay, well, thank you. You said watch me on the Weather Channel. It is Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Eastern. And I'm hosting the Weather Geeks podcast. So listen to that anywhere you get your podcasts. Myself and Dr. Marshall Shepard. You can find me on Twitter, Jen Carfagno, on Instagram, Jen Carfagno, on Facebook, Jen Carfagno, and TikTok, Jen Carfagno, but I'm just not there very much. And I'm on Blue Sky.
We're all going to go get you on TikTok. We're all going to go follow you on TikTok right now. So you'll pick up a whole bunch of followers, right?
Make it worth your while.
You're going to put some good content up there. But anyway, we thank everybody for listening. If you're new here, we are typically on the air Monday nights at 8 o'clock Eastern, 7 o'clock Central. And we know that most of you listen to the audio version of this, but you can watch it live or watch it later. YouTube.com/WeatherBrains. Now, if you want to ask a question from any of us or about any topic we've discussed, or maybe have some guest suggestions, we would love to hear from you. Jen N is our email officer. The email address here, it is email@weatherbrains.com as we approach our 20th anniversary. 20 years of WeatherBrains. It'll be January. So on behalf of the entire WeatherBrains crew, I'm James Spann. Thanks for listening. Have a great week and God bless. Thanks, Jen. That was great.
That was awesome.
Thank you, Jen.
Guys.
Wonderful.
Thank you,
Great
Jen.
show. Thanks, Jen.
Thank you all.
Great show. Thanks,
discussion.
Everybody.
Appreciate it. Have a good
Good
night,
luck with
everyone.
that razor.
Bye.
Bye.
Yeah.
Who just got the faux pas? James, congrats.